I want you away from this place for 12 hours. If you leave at 5 o'clock, then, 5 a.m. is the earliest I want you back. And I probably don't want you in at 5 a.m. but come in at 8 like you normally would. Work generally starts at 8 here. But, if we have a basketball game late and we don't get out of there until 11, 12 o'clock, then I don't want to see you till 11 or 12 o'clock the next day.
We're back. We had a little bye week. We had a little rest week. But we are back with the Sports Prod Pod. I'm Nick Case, joined by Alex Suze, and Dennis Trapani. Guys, how we doing?
We're good.
Don't all speak at once.
Yeah. I think we're good. I don't want to speak for Dennis, but I think we're good. A little rest week, like you said.
No, I think we're all right. We're doing okay.
Yeah, things are good.
Yeah, we were kind of discussing topics last week when it was just decided. Well, actually, we kind of decided to the topic of work-life balance that we're going to talk about today, and then we all kind of went, we kind of want to take a break, and we thought, you know what, that plays in perfectly to work-life balance, because we all need that, we all want that. It is something that's hard to come by in this industry. So let's just take a week off from doing something we are doing for fun and just kind of take a break. And I'm glad we did. I think we're all feeling a little more refreshed after 5 weeks of doing this. But guys, work-life balance in the sports broadcast or just sports industry in general, it's almost like three dirty words. And it is tough to figure out once you're in the thick of it. I think the best way to approach this topic is, what do each of you individually do to help work-life balance, and how did you find that method? Because I think we are in a generation that is finally starting to break down those walls and say, we need this balance. We are not going to do the 80-hour work weeks. We are not going to be there on call every moment of every day. We have to have this break. And I feel like we are the first generation of our positions that are doing this. So how did we get to the point where we are finally recognizing this, and what do we do to kind of even these scales?
I think for me, and I will preface this, and the caveat is I don't follow my own advice nearly enough, and still working on it, however many years into it. The first time I really realized it was, oddly enough, when I left Coastal. And really, I mean, I spent a year at Syracuse, but then when I got to Richmond and I was at the CAA, and it was weird. Like, I was at Coastal, and essentially my whole experience from my sophomore year on was in the Coastal Carolina athletic department. So that's all I really knew. I went out with people, whether they were interns or younger full timers. I went out with them. They were my friends, all that stuff. And then when I broke away, and the CAA, an office, conference office, was only like 15 people. It was like, all right, well, let's hang out with people my own age around Richmond, and super enjoyed it. And I was like, oh, I have time. I don't have to go to games, because I was in a conference office, all that stuff. And that was really fun. And I was like, I need to do more of this regardless of where I'm at. And so that was really, I mean, that took a while. That's 6-7 years into my career. And then, coming back to Coastal, came back and really kind of went back to the grind and fell into my own old ways of doing too much, and being here or being on campus far too often. And one thing that helped was having a significant other that could care less about sports. And my stress level being super, super high. She's like, why? It's a game. And it's like, yeah, it is. Passionate about it, want my work to be good, want to do right by the department. But when my wife's saying like, no, I mean, it's just a game, they're just playing. It was a perspective I needed, because all I'd ever known was people that were like me, dyed in the wool athletics administrators or workers, coaches, whatever it may be. And so it's been, ever since really then, when she moved down here, a process, and slow process, and probably not fast enough, but of just trying to, make that separation. I don't have the best methods or anything, but there's definitely, been success in when I get home, my phone goes to one room and I go to the other and try to do an hour. It like kind of, it's like a magnet pulling you back sometimes because someone's emailed or texted, but try to do that. Anything past 8 o'clock from my students, I don't answer until 8 in the morning. Um, we I'm not going to do anything about it at 8:30. So, or whenever it is that and they're up a lot later than I am, but I'm certainly not going to do anything about it. If it's a payroll thing or anything like that, no one at Coastal is going to do anything about it. So it's just a non-answer. Not even, I'll get to that in the morning. And they've got to the point where they don't even hit the group chat or me past 8 o'clock. Because of that rule. So that's been good. I'm sure there's been some other things, but yeah, it's been a slow process. I need to take my own advice and other people's advice a little bit more, but um, it's it's been good when I'm on track with it. I can definitely feel more refreshed, and I'm better at work and better at home because of it.
For me, work life balance kind of came out of necessity, and I won't get into the gory details. Maybe another time, but I was in a spot where my mental health, my physical health they were not good. And it came from working so much and being so obsessed with the end product, not knowing when to quit, not knowing when, I hate the phrase good enough is good enough, but sometimes it is. um, and so I hit a point where, I had to take a step back and realize that, I struggle to say it's just a job, because I think anybody who has made college athletics their life, their career, I think anyone would struggle to say, hey, it's just a job, because it is more than that. But I had to hit a point where I did say to myself, like, yeah, it's just a job, and it's not worth my health, and it's not worth my sanity. And so I started taking more days here and there. I mean, you guys know as well as anybody, being at a smaller school, especially with less staff, it's hard to do that sometimes. But, I've found you know, if even if there's a day where I can break away at noon and go down to Denver and go to a hockey game and then come home that night, or maybe you just take a whole day and go play golf, or just go for, honestly, there's a lot of really cool smaller little mountain towns within a few hours of Laramie, and sometimes I just jump in the car and go and spend the day there and have lunch and kick around, or I go hiking, or um, you have to do that. You have to take your time. And like I said, along with the idea of, you know, um, it's just a job, you know, there's, there are days where you just have to go, okay, it's just this. And sometimes, yeah, maybe that little bell and whistle that you want to add to your broadcast for tomorrow, maybe it is 6, 7 o'clock, maybe it's 8 o'clock, maybe it is time to just go home and eat dinner and lay on the couch and watch TV, or go for a run, or get on the exercise bike, which is what I usually love to do, is come home and ride my Peloton. But sometimes you just have to do that. And anyone that tells you otherwise is they're not being genuine to you. like you you get days off from work. The point of having those days off is for you to use them. And if the work environment is set up as such where they can't easily prepare for a day without you, that's not your fault.
Yeah, these days off aren't just so that we can wash our clothes and get back to it the next day. We need mental breaks, we need mental resets, we need opportunities to explore lives outside of us. I mean, we all have people in our lives, one way or the other, that we want to spend time with that does not involve being in the office. I'm married, Suze is married. Um, Sorry, Dennis, to leave you out of that one, but
Yeah.
um, you know,
I'll get there one of these days.
yeah, like there are people that we want to spend time with, and even Dennis, like you may not be married, but I know there are people outside of the office that you want to spend time with. Even even just we all have dogs, we all have pets. Even if you want to just take it to that minutia, we want to spend time with the families that we have created one way or the other, and so it's important to say maybe I did work Diamond Sports in Susan I's case for an entire weekend. Okay, well, I'm just letting you know I'm not going to be here Monday because I need a day to just decompress and spend time with the people that I want to be with and not just have to see them at breakfast and at dinner and have them as roommates essentially.
Yeah, like we have a fairly I never want to call a home football week an easy week, but literally the only home event we have this week is football against Air Force on Saturday night. So, Mondays are really hard for me to take off because I have all of our staff meetings, our content meeting, our external meeting, our senior staff meeting, like all this stuff. Mondays are very hard for me to take off, but I kind of planned the week out this week. I scheduled all my meetings for Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm going to be able to take Thursday off and then come back on Friday and set football and make sure football's ready to go to the best of my ability. And, but it's just something I had to do because I mean, legitimately this past Sunday was my first day off in had to be 3 weeks, and preseason, you guys know preseason's like that because you have volleyball tournaments and you have soccer starting up and they play on Sundays. And so I looked at this and said, okay, pretty easy September week here, a very, very rare light September week. I'm going to make sure I get a day off here. So, and what am I going to do with it? I have no idea. I might go fishing. I might play golf. I don't know, but I'm going to recharge my batteries because honestly, that's what I need right now.
I will say, working at a Southern Baptist school like Charleston Southern, it was nice, pretty much guaranteeing you'd always have Sunday off. That was something you could pretty much book, and that was quality. It was good to know. Even if my relaxation, which now that it started, is sitting down and putting on Sunday Ticket and watching my 3-0 Steelers play. You know what? That's a
Just
nice
drop that
that's a nice
in.
disconnect for a little bit. Yeah, I just had to throw that in there. No
My guy
shit.
had to throw that in there. There was
Yeah.
you knew that was coming at some point, right?
But just even if it's that, and even today, like yes, I'm freelancing, but I was gone Friday, Saturday, Sunday up in Chapel Hill working the JMU UNC game. And so I got back Sunday. I got back in time to watch the Steelers play, but I had the evening with my wife, sure, but then we were both off today, and I made sure my other things that I do, the podcast that I edit and everything like that, I took today off from it on this Monday because we record Monday nights and publish this Tuesdays for those that want to know. Um, and we went out and had a little coffee date, and then we went and visited my mom. Like we made sure to spend time together, and that's just one of those small things that is one of those things in work life balance that even as a freelancer, it is really easy to say, I'm scared I'm not going to get to work. I need to stack this right now. And also still avoid that work life balance because you don't know, like my next month looks good. I don't know what November or December or January are going to look like. So maybe I need to stack October as deep as I can. So even as a freelancer that's no longer affiliated with one institution, it still is an issue, a very, very viable issue.
One thing for me, even beyond just the time you need the time to do the things you want. So you need to take that time. But I've even gone to the point where, there's times I'll come in the next day, whether it's, after like tonight, Monday Night Football, and someone will say, like, do you see that? Whatever happened? Nope. I watched something trashy with my wife, and I didn't, even like, there's crime dramas that we like and stuff, but at times I'm like, no, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to make a decision. I want to laugh at people and judge them, and that's it. Mindless, or even just have it in the background, and we're just talking. And sometimes I just need that, and like I've we always talk about like you know directing or producing will ruin watching sports, but even just seeing so many dang events will do it too. And I see so many wins and losses by my friends that sometimes it's like hard to like care about what the professionals are doing or something. You're like, all right, like Patriots, not very good. It's fine. I used to kill me. But now, like I would much rather my friends on our football staff at Coastal do well than the Patriots. And so, when I watch, it's just to watch a football game, and I'm not like trying to go crazy at it or anything like that. And certainly watch. I am a Bravo husband now, so that is helpful. And there's just a lot less caring about what those dummies are doing, and it's a lot less stress, even though they're yelling all the time.
Yeah, 80% of our Mondays are Food Network blank baking championship.
Hmm.
As soon as we're done here, I'm gonna sit down on in front of the TV and watch Halloween baking championship with Michelle. So
Yep.
yeah.
No, and I mean to kind of further Sousa's point, there are nights I get home where the last thing I want to do is watch sports.
Mhm.
Um, I mean if it's my Niners or my Rangers, then yeah. I mean that if I'm around, that's going on. I mean, heck, half the time there's a small corner of my multi-view that is dedicated to one of those teams if they happen to be on, just so I can keep an eye on it. But um, I mean, I'm there. There are nights I come home and I'm like, yeah, I'll watch Monday Night Football, even if I don't have a care or a fantasy player in the game. Like there are nights I'll just watch it because it's the NFL, and there are nights where I'll come home and the Rangers aren't playing, but oh hey, Connor McDavid is playing the Avalanche and he's playing Nathan McKinnon. Okay, that's a fun
Yeah,
matchup. I want to watch
turn
that
that
one,
on. Yeah.
right? Yeah, but I mean, there are also nights where I come home and I'm just like, nope, nope. I want nothing involving a ball, a puck, a field, or court, or a rink. I don't care.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna put a Marvel movie on or a Star Wars movie, or I might not even watch TV. I might just read a book. Do people still do that?
No. actually, but actually, I feel like books are starting to make a comeback for what that's worth. Um, I mean, my Sundays, I pretty much reserve those to have. And you guys have seen my home office, and we'll post a photo of it on the Twitter account. But like, I put on my 4 screens and I just veg out for the 1 o'clock games, and after that, all right, we're done. And I still love to disconnect and disassociate a bit during the NFL season, but other than that, yeah, I'll put on a Penguins game, I'll put on a Pirates game, and it's background noise to an extent. It's not
Hmm.
the same fervor it used to be for that. It's that same feeling. Now, something Dennis you brought up, we talk about how we combat work-life balance. I hate saying that because I feel like I'm saying it wrong, but you guys get my point. We combat towards the balance of work-life balance. And Dennis, you've brought up your 12-hour rule. You want to kind of talk about that?
Yeah. And it's not ironclad because sometimes it doesn't work. But I generally have a rule for my staff that I want you away from this place for 12 hours. So if you leave at 5 o'clock, then, you know, 5 a.m. is the earliest I want you back. And I probably don't want you in at 5 a.m.
Also, don't want that. Yeah.
But come in at 8 like you normally would. Work generally starts at 8 here. But, if we have a basketball game late and we don't get out of there until 11, 12 o'clock, then I don't want to see you till 11 or 12 o'clock the next day. Um, and again, I mean, sometimes it doesn't work that way. I mean, sometimes you have a Wednesday night basketball game that's on national TV and, you're tipping off at 9 p.m. Mountain Time. And so, 3 hours for the game and stuff. You're not getting out of there till after midnight. But oh, hey, guess what? We have an interview with a swimmer the next morning at 9 a.m. Okay, all right. Well, you got to be in at 8 to get ready for that. Make sure everything's set up, make sure camera works, lights, the whole nine. But sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you do look at that Thursday after that Wednesday game and go, okay, like the morning's pretty light tomorrow. Why don't you guys get some sleep? Because I mean, personally, I would rather have my staff well rested than have them be in at a specific time for the sake of being in at a specific time. I think that, especially creative people, your creativity only gets you so far when you're tired, um, and it is finite. Your creativity ebbs and flows with your energy level, and some days you have a ton of energy and you're popping ideas out left and right, and some days you don't, and It's everything you can do to get to the end of the day and make sure you get some work done. So I try to keep that in mind. Especially, I mean, we talk specifically, the three of us, about live broadcast because that's what we specialize in. I mean, an exhausted person's not going to be a good tape op. They're not going to be a good tech director. They're not going to be a good graphics op. So, people are a finite resource. Like energy is a finite resource. Like you need to make sure that you're nurturing that and that your people are taking care of themselves. And, even if it is, hey, come in late the next morning, but they get up and they get their laundry done, or they change the sheets on their bed, or they vacuum the living room, or they meal prep for the week. Just little things like that help the day become a little easier. Those are important to me as a boss, as a supervisor.
When Dennis, when I first heard you say that, I think when we spoke on that panel at SVG, I put it in right away. I instituted it right away, and everyone has loved it here. I mean, some of the new folks, like their eyes get wide and they're like, "Oh, really?" Like I thought. I'm like, I mean, we got to grind, but we're leaving at 10. I mean, 10's like the next day is like, I'll tell them, 10 o'clock the next day. That's the 12-hour rule. But then I can say, you know what, we can stretch that past lunch if it is that light morning, or if it is a GA instead of a full timer or something.
Mhm.
And he's got to go do homework too, and all that stuff. And yeah, it's been awesome for us at Coastal, and we definitely use it all the time. And there's my um, what's Josh called now, digital content coordinator, but he still does stuff for us on the broadcast side. Like, he's a grinder. He's me at 21, and I'm like, dude, you gotta do this. Trust me. Like, I've almost left 4 times. I want you to be like 2 times by the time you get to my age. Like, you gotta listen to me. I promise. You are
Mhm.
like a mirror image of me, and you're doing great, and you're great because of it. But it you're going to run out of that finite energy source if you keep going this way, even at a young age.
Oh yeah, I mean, and the thing is, it's predicated on mutual respect. I mean, there definitely is some onus on the staff to not abuse the rule.
Hmm.
Um, but I will say, when you're more willing to give them a break like that, they're more willing to respect the rule. And um, what I've found is it tends to lead to, when they are energized and they do come back and they've gotten that extra sleep, or they've gotten to pay bills or do laundry, they come back and they work harder. They come back and they go, okay, cool. Like, this place actually cares, and I've been able to do that because I have really good bosses that understand everything we've talked about. That, um, that some days it is just a job, and it's a busy job, and it's a job where you do have to grind, but that does not mean sending yourself over an edge, if that makes sense.
Yeah, when I was in charge at Charleston Southern, well, first I was hired by Seth Montgomery, who's now at Indiana State, and he had the same kind of thing that I carried over when it became my turn to be in charge. Is like, if you don't need to be here, don't be here, man. And it was all contingent on getting your work done, or we have laptops that we are issued by the school for a reason. If the creative can take a day to just create at home and edit at home and use their laptop at home, I just take some time, man. Take 2 days away. If you don't need to be here to film anything, if you don't need to be here to do any interviews or whatever, and you're able to take everything you need with you for a particular project, just do it. Don't be here. We're all here enough. We're all here. Like, it was very important that everybody we hired fit the personality of the office, because, as you guys know, and as the listeners know, we are in these offices a lot and we are close together a lot. If we're not getting along, it is not a good situation. And so, when creative is there doing what they need to do, and they can just take some time to say, all right, I'm going to spend the next 2 days editing from home, please do that. Please do that. You're here, like Alex said, grinding through And for every sport, at CSU, I didn't do every sport. You guys do most sports, but I'm sure there are still some sports that just don't get picked up. Like golf, for instance, is a big one. Like, okay, they're out doing golf. I don't have to worry about that, but they're still out doing something. All right, well, you just spent the weekend doing golf. Go ahead and spend Monday and Tuesday editing if that's what you need to do. Just, I don't want to see you. I want to see you away. And I was able to adapt that to my stuff too. Why through first TeamViewer, and then through Chrome desktop, where Mirror, whatever it is. I'll get the right name for that so that everybody else can go with it if they need to. But yeah, Chrome Remote Desktop, and to be able to patch into my TriCaster, my 3Play, my AJT, and edit and build everything I needed for an upcoming weekend over a Monday or Tuesday, when I just said, I'm going to be home for these days because I just need to be home. And while I'm still working, I'm at least at home and away from the office, and being able to be in an element that calms me down more and brings me down more. And I think that was just as helpful to still be working, but in that environment, compared to in an office environment that we all got along great, and we still do. I'm in a group chat with everyone that's still going, but just to be away from them and be able to be in my home and do this stuff was still just a big help. And it's just, it may not be like a perfect tip of the scale of the work life balance to not work, but it's a big help.
Well, we used to one of the I'll bring up the dreaded C word, COVID. One of the really good things to come out of that was there was kind of proof of concept that hey, the video people can be at home sometimes. And so it all kind of coincided with we were getting new computers after the all that was over. And it came time to start replacing computers in the office. And previously, everyone in the office had like an iMac and a Mac Pro, and then like a mid-level MacBook Pro to kind of do stuff on the road, right? And so I was talking to one of the Mac guys at on campus, because he used to run replay for me on game days. We were just talking one day, and he just kind of threw out the idea. He's like, "Why don't you guys just go get monster laptops, like spec them out as far as they can go, and just have one computer, and then just do docs?" And I said, "Oh, that's a great idea." So my computer was the oldest one, so I went first. And instead of getting a iMac and a MacBook Pro, I got a monster MacBook Pro and a dock. And what I realized was, oh wow, I can dock this at home, or I can dock it at work. But then I can also go get a really cheap USB-C to HDMI dongle that can handle 4K, and I can have a wireless keyboard mouse at home, which is really cheap, and I can take an old monitor that we're not using at home anymore, and I can have my laptop at home. And so I did it, and it worked really well. So as my staff started to get new computers, we just got laptops, like really, really powerful laptops. And what we're able to do now is, like you said, Nick, one of the guys on my staff today went down to Fort Collins to shoot a golf tournament. Well, instead of having to come back to the office now and edit something and log all that footage, Charlie went home tonight. He's logging all his footage at home. He's going to do his cut at home. He can send the cut to social from his computer to post. And then tomorrow, when he gets in first thing in the morning, the first thing he'll do is dump that footage onto our video server so that everybody else has access to it. And so I realized that from a creative standpoint was great. I mean, I do 85% of my game prep for our broadcast at home at night. Like I will take my laptop home and I'll plug it in and I'll have dinner, and I'll, sometimes I'll have a drink, and, I'll do my game prep. I'll make all my Excel sheets and everything I need. The other thing that you kind of mentioned that I do, but I do it in a different way, is I went and got an AnyDesk subscription for our staff. And AnyDesk is great because I can have 4, 5, 6 windows of it open at once. So there are nights where, like, if I'm building our expression, I'll just, as I'm walking out the door to go home, I'll just swing by the control room. I'll flip on our switcher and I'll flip on our expression, and I'll go home. So then, once I get home, I can sit down. I can have my switcher open on one window. I can have my expression open on the other window. I can build the graphics, and then I can actually trigger them and see them go through on the expression to make sure, or on the switcher to make sure they look the way I want them to. And I do it all the time with our video board stuff. Like, our video board system in the football stadium it's run off of 4 different machines. So what I can do is I can have all 4 of those open, and then I can have another computer open with an NDI feed of what would actually go out on the board. And I can sit there and I can make all these remotes, and I can do all these triggers, and I can actually test them at home without having to physically see the video board. So that in itself has been massive for my balance, my mental health, my physical health, because I can come home and work out and then take a shower and then sit down and work. And the workout in the shower kind of rejuvenates me, where, okay, cool, I could do this for 2-3 hours now if I have to. So, technology has advanced to the point where all of this is possible. Whereas maybe 7-8 years ago, guys, we could never have done this.
No, you'd have to literally flip the board on and be there. And even if you're working at home, and someone might be like, well, that's not really work-life balance. Well, you're not driving. You got your workout in still. You ate. Maybe you have that beverage with you. And then you're not having however long your commute is either home. And that's huge. I mean, even in, most football stadiums, if I were to do all that upstairs, it's 10 minutes to my car just to get to my car from, on campus. And then I'm driving another 20 home. Whereas when you were done, all right, I'm done. Close it, put on whatever you want on, and then, and you save all that time doing that. And I do the same for like our prep it's at home, the last couple nights before a game with the Excel sheets and stuff like that, because a lot of times now that, where we have gotten in our development in our careers is you're not doing that nitty gritty at work anymore, because you're meeting with people. People are coming into your office constantly. I recently told my supervisor, I was like, hey, I wanted to apologize to you because I'm one of the ones that comes and just leans on the door jamb and just starts asking you questions, because now I have actually a large enough staff where they're doing that. And I'm like, oh man, can we stop? I've gone like 4 cells deep on this Excel. Like we have to stop. And that's actually been beneficial of the 12-hour rule. Whether I worked the game the night prior or I was home, sometimes those guys are at home, they're resting, and I'm in the office till 11, and they're not there, and they're resting. They need that, but also I need time to do some of my more administrative things. And that's nice. I'll close the door. I'll wave at the marketing guy, say, hey, I still like you, but close the door. He'll close his, and we just work. And that's nice too, because that doesn't happen very often when, it's all students and, everyone's running around with their hair on fire to try and get things done. But that 12-hour rule creates that little bit of buffer too.
Yeah. And I, same thing. I mean, we have an open floor plan. In a, it's very, very chic. I don't have my own office. I mean, we have, a couple areas that if I need to have a private meeting, our office is so big that I can go somewhere else and do that. But my desk is right out there with everybody else's, and which I love, because it's very, very, very easy for the 4 of us to throw ideas back and forth, or, just stop working in the middle of the day and have a vent session or whatever. But there is something really great about being able to go home at night and have that kind of peace and quiet. And, if I want to figure out, what our point guard is shooting from 3 in the 7th minute of the game on alternate Thursdays over the last 3 years, like I can actually sit down and do it because I have peace and quiet. And then the other thing, Nick kind of mentioned, I'm the bachelor of the group here, but I got my buddy Crash, and if you follow me on social media, you know who Crash is, because literally my social media is yelling about the New York Rangers and Crash. So, but my home office, Crash has got a little bed in here, and he hangs out, and he'll just go to sleep and snore while I work. And, but that's good because he's not here in the house alone, and I'm not at the office alone. And, it just works. I can be a good dog dad that way.
Yeah, and I kind of led with this at the top, but I really do feel like, and even us, we are the kind of older guard. Just we are older, but we are the first ones that I think are
When
really
did that happen,
embracing.
by the way?
I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. Uh, but I feel like we're the first ones that are really embracing this work life balance structure to a better extent. And, you know, I've, I was at Charleston Southern for 7 years, but I still interviewed for some places because it's something we've all done, whether it's out of genuine curiosity or a genuine desire to see what else is out there. And it is something that I have asked in every single interview is, it's never going to be perfect, and that's fine, but what are you guys doing to help with work life balance? And it has been fascinating to see some of the replies that I've gotten from either some of the older guard get very uncomfortable when you ask that, to some of the newer guard around our age, maybe a little bit younger, will just hop on in with pretty much a lot of the things we've said. And when you see that a lot of these places have that same conversation or have had it and have that same mindset of, yeah, we really need to change this, because that's by far the majority of what I've dealt with is similar replies to what we've had or what we've said here. It makes me feel a lot better about where the future of this industry is going, because the less people that are burnt out, the better everything's going to be.
When I've interviewed at places, and I have, don't tell my boss. Well, no, they know. They found out eventually. But we've had that same conversation, and it is funny to see also the difference, especially in an industry like this, when you get the one answer, like, oh man, we value it. It's this XYZ, XYZ. But I mean, you're one Twitter DM from really finding out what it's like at that place, and if they follow through on that. And there's probably been times where I say all these things, and I mean, I at least threw a caveat that I need to take my own advice. But there's probably times where someone that's left coastal will be like, no, he's not really about that. Because at times we we do a lot of games and we do a lot of things, on other digital platforms that we got to get done. And but I think the good thing is that there is a conversation. Sometimes it gets toxic, as it did on Twitter the past couple days. Or
No.
anytime, sorry, anytime it gets on Twitter, uh, it does get that way. Where the old guard and the new guard, go head to head, but at least people are talking about it, and we were, to be fair, we were talking about this prior to the Twitter fight, so we were ahead of the conversation this time. We just didn't do the actual episode last week
I mean, I
until
made
the.
a post saying that's what we were going to talk about.
That's true.
So
Maybe you started it,
there's
and
receipts.
someone
Yeah,
saw that and said,
exactly.
"You know what? Let's fight about it."
Exactly.
But to kind of further the point, and I'm like you guys. I've interviewed places. I've come close to taking one or two. I fully admit that. Um, but every time, my first concern is what's the culture, what is the potential for work life balance, and I say that knowing full well that work life balance in our industry is different than it is in a lot of other industries. It's not, I don't think it's ever going to be 50-50 as much as we want it to be sometimes. But that's always the first thing I try to investigate is will I be happy here? Because I mean, at the end of the day, that's what matters. Is are you happy? Are you enjoying life? You only get one shot at it. You only get so many trips around the sun. You might as well enjoy them, right? Um, and I can say that having just had a birthday and I'm edging ever closer to that number that starts with a four.
It's
But
not bad, I promise.
no, well, I'll take your word for it. Um, I'll let you know in a year. But it, that's those are the important things, guys. And I think the one thing to remember, you bring up all the toxic social media conversation that seems to happen every time somebody goes and shares their experience that was a negative one. Somebody's always got to come back and go, well, I've been doing this for 20 years and I've had a great experience. It's like, you got to remember everyone's experience is different. Just because you have found yourself in a spot that works really, really well for you does not mean everybody else has. I know that I am very lucky to be in a spot where I am allowed to be creative. I am allowed freedom. I am allowed to have enough of a work-life balance. I mean, hell, they let me bring my dog to the control room on Sundays when there's no one else in the building. I mean, if we're doing a soccer game on Sunday out of our control room, Crash is under my feet. And it may seem stupid, it may seem small, like a small thing to a lot of people, but that means the world to me that I get to bring my pup to work with me and no one bats an eye. And all he does is sleep the whole time. I mean, it's kind of like I want Crash to be the Wyoming version of Herb Street's dog. We got to get it. I got to start that on Twitter. We got to get the dogs together. but but no, everyone's experience is different. And if you find a place, we always talk about this, the three of us, and over the years we've talked about this, the old line, chase a life, not a logo. And I think we've all come of the age where we've realized that the logo on your shirt doesn't matter. What matters is that a good place for you? Is it a productive place for you? Is it a healthy place for you? And can you build a life somewhere, regardless of whether it's Wyoming, Coastal, Charleston Southern, Ohio State, Alabama, Virginia Tech, Texas, like whoever it is. If the logo works for you, then it's the right logo. If the place works for you, then it's the right logo. If you're miserable, then I don't care what logo it is. You're going to be miserable. And that's not all, maybe when I was younger, I thought, oh, I got to have the best equipment and this and that. But it's not about having the completely decked out control room. It's not about having the nicest cameras. It's not about having the biggest staff. It's about finding the place that is right for you.
I think you nailed it when you said it's about culture. And I think that's really where the conversation probably should go, because we know that it is not going to be 50-50 until, I don't know, I don't even know how, but it won't be. I mean, that's how it is right now, and not for the better, not for the worse. It just, it won't be 50-50. But if the culture supports you, you're happy there, it is not a, drain on you, on your health, mental, physical, relationship wise, then yeah, the culture's building you up and not breaking you down, then that's what you need to be looking for. Because I mean, Nick knows from 6 a.m. calls and stuff like that on the freelance side. And when I talk to the remote ops that come into Coastal for linear games, and they're like, yep, I got about a day at home and then back off. And, I might be able to see a graduate, like everywhere. It's whether you're in a school environment or on the freelance side with ESPN, purely freelance, whatever it may be, like it's all going to be a grind in one way or the other. But if you're being supported, you have supervisors that understand, like you guys yourselves as supervisors, or your own supervisors that let you take that time, that, don't even give you in a joking manner, oh, where were you yesterday? Like that stuff. They just, instead of the little digs about taking your time, they encourage you to do so. All that stuff I think is important, because you are going to work a lot of hours. They're going to be some of the most rewarding hours you'll ever experience. You'll be tired, but if you have the culture around you to kind of build you up, I think it makes it worth it. And also more, it's easier to take your time because you're not feeling bad about it. We used to call it coastal guilt, like Catholic guilt, which I still have somehow. It's been a long time, but it used to be coastal guilt, like, oh, soccer's going on and I'm not there. No, they'll be fine. You taught them, like they're good. Mm-hmm. Let them go. Watch it, watch 20 minutes of it, make sure everything's cool, and then turn it off, and it's fine. Got to get rid of the guilt of not being there.
You talk about that, and we've mentioned that one of the changes I made this year is I stopped traveling with football. For the past 11 seasons, I think I missed maybe 2 road trips. And, I started to think to myself, I've got 2 kids on my staff that at this point are better shooters than me. They're more creative than me. And anyway, what happens is if I go on a road trip, what inevitably happens is I get a phone call because they're trying to stream a volleyball match or a soccer match, and they go, "We don't know what happened here. This isn't working. This isn't working," and I end up remoting into the machine and being stressed out anyway. So I thought, you know what? Let's let them go shoot football because they're better than me at it at this point, and I'll stay in Laramie and do the thing I'm still really good at, which is live broadcast. And I ended up going to our first game this year just because it was Power Five, and it was Arizona State, and I wanted to go check their facilities out and everything. And that's something I'll probably still do, is I'll probably go on one trip a year, especially to a bigger school like that, just to check out their setup. Um, but I didn't go on the trip this weekend, and I watched I watched it on TV, and it was a little bit of an out of body experience, not being there. But at the same time, I stayed here on Friday and Saturday, and I streamed our volleyball matches, and they went great. And our new kids have really taken to it, and they did a really good job. And it was 2 really good shows. And so I was like, yeah, they've got it there, I've got it here, and everything's okay. And I don't need to worry about, oh, did they start the record at the truck, or did they remember to set up for the post game press conference, because I know they're going to, because I taught them. So, um, and I knew, like, to that point, this is something that I've been thinking about doing for a couple of years. So last year, I really made a point of, hey, Eliza, when she was on trips with me, hey, like, okay, this is like, you come to the truck with me. This is how you set the recorder up. This is who you find the EIC, or you find the V1, and you talk to them, or you find the tech manager, and he'll help you find whoever the right person is. And then, this is where you set the tripod up for post game, and this is where you get the mic ready. And, and then Charlie went on a couple trips with me too, and I did the same thing with him. So they know what they're doing, and it's not, it's not the end of the world. Sometimes growing old, as we say, as we've said, we've all hit that age. Sometimes that is letting go, and letting the kids do it, because um you know somebody did that for all of us at some point, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So, what is it you guys look to do outside of the work to get that work life balance? And this can be a quick one. Like for me, travel. The last week and a half, I've gone to 3 concerts, which has worn me out. But did that in between shows at UNC, which Hootie and the Blowfish, Mount Joy, and Black Pumas for anybody curious. And we love a good bougie dinner, a nice restaurant kind of a place. Like that's what we do to together, Michelle and I, my wife and I, to try to kind of get our time back when we can together. So what is it? What do you guys do?
I like I like a show. Um, I have gone into Mosh retirement, so I have my arms crossed right now. This is how I stand in the back of a punk rock or hardcore show. But me and my buddy who actually got out of athletics, he was in ops, and but he and I will try to get to a couple, every quarter. It used to be monthly, but now every quarter we try to get to a couple in the Carolinas. Go see a show, yell, just not talk about anything work wise, and sing songs either from our childhood, or just yell at other people, and jump on. Well, we don't jump on top of people anymore, but used to. And then with my wife, it's the Bravo shows and British dramas, and then we got the boy, we got Ollie. So playing with him, I mean, I didn't have the greatest show again last week, and when I went and picked him up from my dad's, it I was good. Everything was all right. So being with him has been honestly a real big catalyst. I mean, just his schedule alone gets me out of work a lot earlier than I probably would. So, but he don't care what happened. He just wants to come hug you and snuggle you. So, or really climb on top of you and jump on you. So um, that's kind of where we go with it.
Like I mentioned before, I bought a Peloton a few years ago, and that's been a great thing for me. It's lost some weight. It's easy to blow off steam. Um, I've got it set up. It's actually in my home office as well with a TV in front of it. So if I want to watch a game while I'm on it, I can. Um, Other than that, the summers in Laramie are the best summers anywhere, and you can't convince me otherwise. No humidity and never really gets above 90.
Mm.
So, play a lot of golf in the summers. You know, when we get into the season, obviously it's harder to golf, and the winter here does not really lend itself to that. But
Mm.
um, a walk and crash around town. Laramie's an incredibly walkable town. So there are parks. There's a park in every direction from my house. That's maybe a 10-minute walk. So, I'll walk crash to one of the parks and hang out there and throw the tennis ball with them or something like that. If I'm being from New York, obviously Laramie is quite small. So if I need my big city, I can go down to Denver. And sometimes I'll go down for a weekend. Sometimes I'll go down for a night. One of my favorite things to do is, get a buddy or sometimes even go by myself and, go buy the cheapest ticket I can find to an Avalanche game and sit in the most remote corner of the arena and just have a beer and some nachos and just sit back and watch hockey. It's my favorite sport. So that's awesome. Obviously if the Rangers are in town, we sit down a little lower and I act like a shameless New Yorker, but no, I'll go, and I refuse to tell any of my freelancers that work Avalanche too that I'm there. Because they've all been threatened that if I ever end up on the video board at Ball Arena, that there will be hell to pay. But no, I mean I'll do the same thing in the summer with Rockies games. Just go sit in the upper deck for $5 or $10 and have a couple hot dogs and a couple beers and just sit in the sun and take in a baseball game. Sometimes vitamin D is the best medicine when you're feeling stressed out. And I read I'm old and I read as we established as well.
Yeah, all those things are pretty great and refreshing. I mean, I'll go to some Stingrays games. Don't you get me wrong, but man, I wish we had an NHL team closer than Raleigh. But oh well, that's fine. Whatever. What can you do? I've made that trip enough for a while. I'm not going back up for a little bit, unless UNC calls. Then hey, you know what? Hey Duke, I'm free. Um, but no, I think it's good that we had this conversation. I think it's something that everybody can understand and resonate with. We're saying like it's never going to be 50-50, and in my head I'm going, man, what is like optimal then? Like 60-40, 65-35? Like what's realistic? And I really don't know. I think it's somewhere in there, but I think that's as close as you're ever going to get to perfect.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be 60-40 would be great, I think. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know what that feels
That'd be
like.
incredible.
That's like
Yeah.
summer. I think
Yeah,
that's summer.
that's yeah. Except in that case, the 60 is, the work or the life and not the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's how it was for me. I don't know. Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, sure.
No, I think 60-40 is a good sweet spot. I mean,
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
like we said, I mean, we signed up for this. We when you sign up for this and you decide to make it your career, not just a job for a while, you know what you're getting into, right? I mean, it's late nights. I mean, and that whenever I hire a student worker, that's the first thing I tell them is, hey, aside from all this, do I want to learn replay? Do I want to do creative? Do I want to learn how to do the switcher? Do I want to learn expression? Whatever it might be. The first and most important thing you need to understand is, yes, there will be nights when your friends go to the game, go to the bars afterward, and they're having a blast, and you are in this room working. And you are working the game. That being said, it's that being said, it's a cool experience. It's fun to be behind the scenes. It's fun to be the guy behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz. But that's the first thing I want to make sure they understand. And I tell them, hey, if that is not for you, then there is no hard feelings if you walk out of here and I don't ever hear from you again. I understand it. This is not for everybody. So that being understood, 60-40 would be great. And I think it's doable. I really do. Maybe it's more 65-35, but um, you know, that's why I said before, to kind of not to beat a dead horse, but you chase a logo, not a life. And if you find that place where you are making enough money to be happy and be comfortable, and that is the thing, that's for you. You make that decision on what that number is. Nobody else does. I don't care if the guy down the street doing the exact same job at a different school is making more than you. If you're happy in that job with that dollar amount and you are getting enough time to yourself to live a happy, productive life, then that is the right logo. I never thought I would be at Wyoming with that bucking horse and rider on that brown shirt. I mean, you guys both know when I left Charleston like 11 years ago, I told you both, I'll probably be there for a couple years. Right? And then I'll move on. I never thought I'd be here this long, but it turned out that at least up until this point, that brown shirt with that bucking horse and rider was the right logo.
All right. To wrap up work-life balance, what do we got this week? What's everybody doing? What are we looking forward to? What can people tune in to watch that you guys are a part of?
We are not as light. We had kind of the same thing that Dennis had last week. We had just football game. But this week we have, I don't know, soccer on Thursday, volleyball on Friday, Saturday, because that's what they do in conference now. And Saturday is actually a volleyball soccer doubleheader. And speaking of work-life balance, I will be at soccer until transmission call on Thursday. I will not be there Friday. I will not be there Saturday because my cousin's wedding and my birthday on Saturday. So make sure that everything looks good Friday because we got to move, or Thursday, move everything back over from football that we use there over to soccer, help with the setup, and then they got it. I've taught them enough. We're a month and a week in, they should be able to roll a little bit.
We got the Pokes and Air Force. Nice rivalry game for homecoming on Saturday night, 6 p.m. Mountain on CBS Sports Network. Do the math for your own time zone because I don't feel like doing it right now. But yeah, no. So it's always fun when we play the Falcons. It's usually always a really good game too. So I'm really looking forward to that one. And then that, like I said, this is a weird September week where that's all we have. So we have this, but then next week, October starts to ramp up. We've got next Thursday soccer volleyball doubleheader. Got volleyball Saturday, soccer Sunday. So pretty busy week next week. So gonna enjoy the lighter week this week. Like I said, probably take Thursday off and go mess around and do something for myself that day. But no, overall looking like a pretty fun week with that football game at the end of it.
Yeah, I will be directing the Citadel against ETSU this coming weekend on Saturday, and that's it, man. I'm taking a break after all that travel. It was a blast being at UNC. It was really cool seeing how a Power 5, I guess Power 4, I don't know, school runs things and how it's done and what their control rooms look like and just the atmosphere. Everybody was super cool. It was an awesome experience, and I'm sure I'll be back. Not to be cocky or confident, but everybody seemed cool and everybody liked me, so I think I'll be back. But after that travel and having an ear infection and having 3 concerts, I'm happy to have a light week, and I'll just be doing that. We'll be back on the road next weekend, but we'll talk about that next week. For now, that'll do it for this episode of the Sports Prod Pod. For Alex Souza, Dennis Trapani, I'm Nick Case. As always, good night, satellite.